What is up, guys? EvilDuoStar here today, and today I have for you a video where I'm going to be giving you a review on Blade & Soul here in the current state of the game in June of 2018. This is a video that I've been wanting to make for a while. I get asked all the time, what do you think of Blade & Soul? Is it worth playing? Is it worth picking up? So yeah, it's about time I made the video. So without further ado, let's get into it. First things first, what is Blade & Soul? Blade & Soul is an action, open-world MMORPG released in late 2012. Fast forward 6 years and now you can play this game just about anywhere. It's been released on so many different servers and locations. In spite of its age, Blade & Soul still has a lot going for it, and we're going to go through all of the things that I think make a great MMO, and we're going to rate Blade & Soul in those categories in a scale of 1 to 10. So those categories that I'm going to be covering are graphics and performance. So how does the game perform? How does it look at various graphic settings? All things that are big questions for an MMO. Player base, is it populated? Are you going to have people to play with? Class variety, how do the classes feel? Do they feel different? Leveling and story content, is it going to be something that wants to make you keep playing? Your crafting system in Blade & Soul, gearing and progression, dungeon variety, you can get bored playing the same dungeons over and over, and then finally player versus player content, because any good MMO will have good player versus player systems. So regarding graphics and performance in Blade & Soul was created using the Unreal Engine 3, so because of this it has some compatibility issues, or optimization issues rather, with newer hardware, so we're talking more recent processors. Blade & Soul is a processor-heavy game, so your graphics card really doesn't matter too much. It's the quality of your processor that you have. That being said, people have reported that they get better performance using Intel processors than AMD processors, although I can't really vouch for that. I did switch from AMD to Intel, but I also upgraded the processor in the process, so I don't have a basis for comparison with that. So take that for however you want. Intel processors tend to perform better. Graphically speaking, the game is actually pretty good graphically. I like going to Midnight Sky Petal Plains here because it is such a great and beautiful area to show off graphics. So if I went ahead and maxed out all the graphics here on my rig and brought it all the way up, you will see a lot of shadowing, a lot of great shadowing. Let's hide the interface here so you can go ahead and see everything and just get a good view of the whole area. You've got shooting stars, you got the skies. It really is quite the beautiful area to show off the graphics powers of this game. Now this is on maxed out settings, and I do have a pretty strong computer here, i7700K, GTX 1070, so you know, we're definitely not pushing it too much here, but it still is a very, very beautiful game looking at it. Now if we were to go ahead and drop it all the way down to the lower graphic settings, and apply the same graphic settings here on the lower end, you will see that the stars tend to blur out a little bit, they get a little foggier, the tree's not as well defined, you're not seeing any more shooting stars or any of the animations or anything going on around the area. Also the draw distance keeps the mobs out of the way, so it does have a very stark difference, and you can actually take it one step further, and there's an optimize for low-end machines option over here. So we go ahead and check that and hit confirm. You are going to see that the game is going to go down to basically RuneScape graphics, but it does help people with lower end PCs to be able to go ahead and play this game. And it's not terrible looking, it's just not as pretty as with maxed out settings. Alright, so regarding player base in Blade & Soul, I am hanging out in Mushin's Tower, which is one of the more social hubs, gathering hubs in Blade & Soul. There's usually a lot of people here, and at 10 a.m. on a Saturday, there are about 40 people hanging out around here, various little activities that you can do in this little area. So it's a pretty solid amount of people, especially since there's multiple channels, and I'm only looking at channel 1. Right now there's 4 channels that have people in them. So yeah, you're definitely still looking at a very populated game. Once again, this is 10 a.m. on a Saturday, so this isn't the most popular or peak time for anybody to be playing this game. If I came back here on at a night time, like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night Eastern time, you know, it would definitely be a lot more populated, and I can confirm it's usually a lot more populated. Usually you have to go to like channel 7 down here to not be able to just be able to walk around without lagging, to be honest with you. So it's still a fairly populated game. Also, if you look at my Discord, which the link to join is in the description below, if you do want to get into this game, I've got 1,200 people, 1,100 have been active in the last week, 970 something were active in the last day within the Discord, looking for parties or looking for recruiting in the Blade & Soul game. So yeah, you've got over 1,000 people that just play to watch me. So it's a hugely populated game still, and yeah, definitely worth picking up if you're concerned about the player base. There are a lot of people playing. There's even more on the EU server because they all have consolidated down into one server, pretty much, the Jinxian server, so it's definitely, there's a lot of people that you can interact with and play with in this game. Alright, regarding class variety in Blade & Soul, there are currently 10 classes in the game. All the classes do fulfill a different role, and there's actually quite a bit of variety between them. Now, you do have your main roles in parties, so you have your healers, which is your summoner and soul fighter class. You have your DPS, more oriented classes, your gunslingers, your forest masters. You have your buffing classes that provide supportive buffs to your teams, like your assassins, your warlocks. Kung Fu Master even does. You've got your tanking classes, which is the Kung Fu Master and Blade Master. They're also adding an 11th class to the game, which is another type of tank class. So yeah, you've got a lot of class variety in the game. All of the classes do play differently. Some of them share different buffs or share different roles. But for the most part, every class does feel unique. It has their own unique set of skills and little gimmicks, if you will, for the class. If you are starting up the game and deciding which class you want to play, I do have a new video that I put out last week regarding which classes are the best for new players that are just starting out in the game to help them get into parties and start progressing characters. So if you do want to check that out, make sure to go ahead and do that. Alright, so the next thing we're going to discuss in Blade and Soul is leveling your character and the story and the quality of the story and all that good stuff that makes any MMO great. So Blade and Soul's story is actually pretty engaging. There's a lot of different story levels to it. It does get very boring if you're playing through it your 11th time or 12th time, but for the first time playing through, I highly recommend watching the cutscenes. They're all voiced over. For the most part, the voice acting is pretty solid. There's several characters that are just terrible voice acting. Your SSP characters have terrible voice acting, but otherwise there's a lot of good voice acting throughout. There's some characters that are quite memorable. There's characters you're going to hate. There's characters you're going to love. It definitely plays with your emotions a little bit, so it is a very strong story. I highly recommend playing through it and watching all the cutscenes. As far as the time it takes to complete the story, if you're first time through and you're just exploring and trying to figure out where everything ends up and where you need to go for all your different story components here, you're probably looking at about 25, 30, 35 hours, maybe even 40 hours of playthrough to go ahead and do the whole story. So you definitely have a lot that you're going to need to get into to play through the story. So regarding the actual leveling itself, leveling does take place in about the same time frame as the story. Like I was saying earlier, all you need to do is clear the story to reach max level. So it's pretty nice for new players. You reach your max level, you get to play through the story and enjoy the story. It's great system. There's a whole bunch of side quests you can do. I mean, if you look on the map, there's how many on this character that I'm leveling right now? Probably 40 or 50 different side quests on my map up there in the top right corner that I can go ahead and play through. So there's a lot of content for you to play just as a story player playing through, and you'll definitely get your time's worth even if you just want to play the game for the story. So I would highly recommend playing Blade and Soul even if you're just playing for the story. Alright, the next thing we're going to look at is the crafting system in Blade and Soul. So my reviews have been very positive up until this point, and that is about to change because the crafting system in Blade and Soul is absolute garbage. They tried fixing it once, they tried fixing it twice, and both times have failed quite miserably. In all honesty, the crafting system doesn't reward you for crafting anything. Everything you can craft in this, you can pretty much buy for cheaper than it costs to craft. The only exception is the Forge Keepers Guild. You can make transformation stones and Empyrean Spirit stones and make a couple of gold every day. Basically, you'd be better off just caping your materials or holding them to upgrade yourself rather than trying to make the extra gold, because you never know with market valuations and how they fluctuate in this game whether you're going to make anything off of these materials whatsoever. So it's a huge risk, not much reward. I definitely do not recommend crafting in this game. Crafting doesn't give you any benefit other than the ability to craft brilliant keys that you can use if you go up one specific weapon upgrade path as far as the Radiant Ring goes. So otherwise, these guilds don't really bring too much to the table. You can buy just about everything else off of the marketplace. So yeah, crafting in this game is quite poor. Don't come into it thinking that you're going to be having fun crafting. Furthermore, it's just a click and forget. You click your button and start crafting the order, and then you come back in a day or half a day or how many ever hours it said, and you pick it up. There's no timing to it. There's no actual involvement. You just gather the materials and click a button. So it doesn't feel very involved. It doesn't feel very beneficial. So I highly disapprove of the crafting system in Blade and Soul. So I was done recording that scene, and then I was editing the video and watching it back, and then I was like, wow, I've totally forgot this one too. So let's throw one more dig at the crafting system. In order to craft, you need to gather these things called rare elements. So basically it's an item that you use to complete the craft of the item, or you also need to gather up items that actually make the craft. So you can gather these spectral ores or overall ores or whatever you see here. You have to gather those through PvE content. So to get those, you have to run dungeons, and then you buy a loot box at the end. The loot box drops with this stuff in it. And in every single dungeon I've ever run anywhere, nobody bids on these boxes. Nobody wants them. You have no need for them because the crafting system is so poor. They just go for the minimum bid of copper, or that nobody bids on it at all and it just gets thrown away. It is that poor that nobody wants to do it. So yes, definitely a very poor crafting system. Alright, the next thing we're going to talk about in Blade and Soul is gearing and gear progression. So there is so many differences in Blade and Soul from a typical MMO that it's like impossible to cover it all in a short review video. If you do want to see more differences on gearing, go ahead and check out my gearing video guides that I have on this. But regardless, I'm going to try and hit the big ones for you so you kind of know what you're getting into before you start playing. So first things first is armor in Blade and Soul. So Blade and Soul is different from any traditional MMO or RPG that you've played in the past. Blade and Soul has no armor in this game whatsoever. You can wear whatever costume you want. They provide no defensive bonuses. I go for the Hong Moon cowboy outfit that you see right here. This is my personal style that I created. But anyway, so going further, to get these stats or the defensive stats that you typically get in a game like this, you get it from this thing called a soul shield. So soul shield has like no appearance bonus to your character whatsoever. It's kind of just 8 slots that you can put different pieces into to increase your character's stats. These pieces drop from dungeons, from raids, from story content, from just about anywhere you can get pieces, and you can combine them in any combination of 8 that you want. There are certain better paths or different combinations for different classes, so it's impossible for me to cover every single one, what you would do or anything like that in this video. But yeah, you can basically combine it however you want to create a character that kind of fits for you. If you want to be more tanky oriented, you can give more defensive stats. If you want to be more offense oriented, more offensive stats. It's that kind of thing. Same thing with armors that you would normally do, but instead of having to worry how you look, you can wear whatever you want and get whatever bonuses you want. It's actually pretty cool. As far as upgrading your weapon goes in Blade and Soul, and this is the other big one that I want to hit since it's what the majority of people will be doing, is Blade and Soul gives you the first level weapon at the start from just completing the story. Not really a spoiler alert, I'm sorry if you feel that way. But you get this first level, entry level legendary weapon from completing the story. As you progress further through the story, you're going to get different items that allow you to upgrade this weapon. So unlike typical MMOs where you farm for a specific weapon and then you equip that weapon and then you go fight the next boss and you farm for a specific weapon and then you equip that weapon and that's how you progress your character. This one, you can progress it at whatever rate you want. As long as you have the materials to go up, you can just upgrade the weapon, the material, to the next stage. So it's really cool for progressing for the first couple of stages of this, but as you're a new player and as you get further into about the 6 and the 7 range here for this weapon, you're going to notice that it begins to slow down tremendously because of all the different items that you need to go ahead and pick up. Different items that require you running higher level dungeons and things like that are harder to get into as a newer player. You can still do it. There's no difficulty to it, and like I was saying before, my Discord has 1,100 people, 1,200 people that play this game, so you can just ask around in there and try and find people. There's different servers you can ask around and try and find for. You can just recruit in the in-game chat and try and find people. There's a party maker that lets you find parties to get into these different dungeons, so it's not impossible, but it is definitely going to slow down when you get to that 6 or 7 range. Ultimately, it took me about 3 months to go from this Raven 1 stat here that you see up to Raven 9 where I currently am. So it is definitely a slow to progress weapon system, but every progression stage does feel relatively meaningful. You do feel the bonus of making that upgrade, so that is pretty nice about that. So yes, those are the 2 huge ways that Blade and Soul differs from any other MMO. No armor, you get the soul shield, and instead of farming for weapons, you upgrade your weapon with different materials that you get from running dungeons or raids or anything like that. Now, with recent changes to the game as far as how you obtain these materials, it has gotten a little bit slower further for newer players to progress simply because there are less materials floating around. To try and deal with market inflation, the developers or game designers or whoever designs it decided that they wanted to decrease the amount of materials and decrease the amount of gold that you can obtain in the game, which ultimately was the hope to drop the prices of the stuff on the market, but nothing has dropped in price and there's less gold floating around. So it is harder for new players to catch up. But as you are playing through, if you're just playing to have fun, you're gonna realize that you're catching up even faster and you're just actually progressing. So it's pretty cool. It's a nice little system. I think it's an interesting twist on the game, of the genre rather, and definitely something that is of interest. Otherwise, though, the gearing in Blade and Soul is relatively similar to just about any other MMO you'll play. You have different accessories you get for your ear, neck, ring, slots, all sorts of different belts, accessories, badges that augment your skills, a pet that increases your defensive stats. It's typical, pretty typical stuff as far as that goes. Just like any MMO, the higher you go up in stages, the more materials it costs, and the more expensive it is to upgrade. So pretty generic like that as far as that is concerned. So we're going to go off to the next section now. Alright, so we're going to touch quickly on dungeons here. There are a lot of dungeons in Blade and Soul. There are probably hundreds, but only like the top 10 or so are relevant in the game anymore. It's kind of disappointing because a lot of the earlier dungeons had really cool mechanics and really cool different things that you had to do to them. For the most part, the newer dungeons all follow a similar pattern of dodge circles on the ground, fight this boss, make sure one person's standing close, one person's standing far. They're all pretty similar as far as mechanically speaking goes. I mean, some of them have cool little you gotta block this orb mechanics or you gotta do this. But in general, they're all relatively similar. What's really cool about them all, though, and I know I'm not showing it off, is the fact that every single dungeon has a really unique arena or play area that you're actually involved in while you're playing the dungeon. It's pretty cool to be able to, one dungeon is completely underwater. That's really awesome. There's dungeons in forests. There's dungeons in caves. It's heavily varied as far as where the dungeons are. Which is pretty nice, especially if you're going to be having to run each dungeon 100 times to get your accessory. So every dungeon has an accessory that it's locked behind or that's locking you out from, and you need these accessories to upgrade your character. So as you can see, I've got all these different accessories that your character can equip and all that good stuff. So to get those, you need to go ahead and clear these dungeons. So the accessories have a chance to drop just from completing the dungeon, so you have a very low chance of the accessory dropping. However, most accessories in the game, after you complete 100 runs of the dungeon, you can go ahead and purchase the accessory from an achievement merchant located right here in Zyway, this main city, capital city here in the game. You can go ahead and hit that merchant up, get your accessory after 100 runs. It's nice the fact that you only have to do 100 if it doesn't drop. But on the same note, 100 runs is going to be literally 4 or 5 days worth of just playing that dungeon over and over again. Not like 4 or 5 days cumulative time, not like 4 or 5 days, 2 hours a day. We're talking a lot of time to get that. So it is kind of sucky that you have to wait that long to go ahead and get these accessories, but you do eventually get it, and it is a nice little mechanic that they added in. Before, that wasn't a mechanic, and you just had to run it until you got it. So nice mechanic that they added in to help people gear a little bit faster. As far as raids go, raids are similar. They involve doing the same mechanic over and over and over and over and over again until the boss is dead. So first couple of times it's pretty cool, but after you've run a dungeon 60 some odd times, like I have, or a raid 60 some odd times, it definitely gets pretty boring pretty after a while. So. But it is nice, though. About every month they do release a different dungeon or different raid. It seems to be about a monthly schedule. So you can expect new content. Now, don't expect to be able to do the new content as soon as it comes out, unless you are at the very pinnacle top of the gear. On the same note, as new content comes out, they sort of phase out older content and make it easier to progress past that. So you will notice whenever there's a major content update, it becomes easier to upgrade your character to try and catch up. They want to keep as many people at the top end of it as they possibly can. So that's pretty nice of them and what they do here as developers. But yes, it is hard to keep up with the main new stuff when it comes out. Alright, and the final thing I wanted to talk about in this review is player versus player content. So Blade & Soul has 3 different modes. There is 1v1, 1v1 versus your opponent, 3v3 tag matches, so it's 1v1s, but people can tag in and out and do 2-on-1s or 2v2s during it. It's an actually interesting take on a typical player versus player system. I quite enjoy it. And then the final one is 6v6 that you see imaged above in the video clip that I'm showing. So 6v6 is based around your gear, so the people with the best gear run 6v6 because it makes the best money. 6v6 drops moonstones, which are one of the most expensive upgrade materials in the game, and everybody needs them, so yes, as you can see, you run 6v6, you make a lot of money. The other modes, 1v1 and 3v3, are based around your player's skill. So if you know how to play your class, or after you think you've learned your class very well, you can go into 1v1 and 3v3 tag matches and go ahead and fight against other people who also think the same thing. And you can make decent money off of soul stones that you get from it, and it's a solid money maker. You can get some nice, interesting items, and that is not based around your gear. That is based entirely on your skill. So it's a nice mode for people that enjoy player versus player, but don't want to have to spend lifetimes to gear. Alright, so this brings us to the end of our video, so I'm going to give us the final ratings that I would give for Blade & Soul. Once again, if you just skipped here from the intro where I put the link to this point so you didn't have to watch the whole video, too long didn't watch, welcome. And we're going to do a really quick summary of each of these points. So graphically speaking, 7 out of 10. Blade & Soul looks beautiful for a game that's 6 years old, but it does have those performance issues that I talked about in the section regarding the Unreal Engine 3. Player base, 8 out of 10. There are a ton of people that still play this game. This game is not dead. There are a lot of people that still play it. On the same note, people do tend to be a bit toxic in this game, so you're going to need to find a community that takes in new players and helps you get into the game, whether that be a clan or my Discord or wherever you happen to fall. Try and find some players that are like-minded and will play the game similarly to you. Class variety, 8 out of 10. There are a ton of different classes in the game. There are a ton of different ways to play your classes. There's so many different builds you can do for different things. Definitely a lot of variety to the classes, and they all fulfill different roles or similar roles, but still do it differently. The leveling and the story content in the game, 10 out of 10. The story is fantastic, especially for a free-to-play game. You're not going to find a better story anywhere. Leveling is quick enough to where you don't feel like you're being bogged down. If it's on your first character anyway. If you're going through multiple characters, it will feel very slow. The crafting system is garbage, 1 out of 10. Gearing. Blade & Soul's interesting take on gearing makes it easy to make your character look nice and have different good stats. But as far as getting the gear itself, it is a bit of a struggle, a bit challenging, and it's hard to upgrade, especially now with more recent changes. So it's only a 6 out of 10. I do feel it's a bit below par. Dungeon variety. The dungeons themselves do have similar mechanics all across the board. However, their experiences and the different areas and maps and everything that you fight in, they're different from every single dungeon. Every single new dungeon is completely different, which is fantastic. So it does create a lot of variety in the dungeons themselves. Player versus player content, 6 out of 10. 1v1, 3v3, perfectly balanced. 6v6, It gives you the best money in the game, and it's tied behind the biggest gear cap. So it's the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. Same note, you can hop in there with whatever gear you have and still make some money, but it's not going to be anywhere near what you'll be able to pick up if you have a top gear character running in player versus player, the endgame stuff. And as far as general combat is concerned, as an action MMO, it has some of the greatest combat in the game, in the genre, really. The only ones that I could think to compare similar-wise would be Elder Scrolls Online or Terra, that have similar action RPG combat. So, you know, you definitely have one of the best systems in the game with this. And it helps to make these dungeons and all these things that are a bit slower feel a lot more fun while you're playing your character. So my overall rating for Blade & Soul would be a 6.9 out of 10. It's actually 6.888, so I rounded it up, which actually is right around what Metacritic gave it, so I'm pretty good at this. I should keep doing these sorts of things. But anyway, guys, that is my review of Blade & Soul. I hope it helps you make the decision on whether or not you want to start the game or start picking it up. It's definitely a great game to pick up and play. As far as how long you're going to play it for, you know, you definitely can play it for as long as you want. But it's definitely, I would 100% recommend at least playing through the story of Blade & Soul. It is a fantastic story in itself. So anyway, guys, thank you for watching, as always. If you did like the video, if you do plan on joining Blade & Soul, check out some of the other guides I have on the channel. There's a lot of guides, a lot of great videos that I put together regarding this game. And yeah, guys, as always, thank you for watching. I will see you at the next video. Peace.